On the morning of March 15th, 44 BC, the most powerful man in the known world walked into the Roman Senate without a bodyguard. 60 senators rose from their seats. One of them grabbed his toga from behind. Caesar turned, and the first blade struck his neck. 23 stab wounds, 60 conspirators. And when he saw Marcus Brutus among them, the man he had loved like a son, he pulled his toga over his face and stopped fighting. He fell at the base of Pompey's statue, his old rival, dead 3 years already. They called it liberty. They called it justice. But what they killed that morning was not a tyrant. It was the last man holding Rome together. And in killing him, they destroyed the republic they claimed to save. Gaius Julius Caesar was born in 100 BC into an ancient but fading patrician family. The Julii claimed descent from Venus herself, but they had no money, no army, and no real influence. Rome, in Caesar's youth, was tearing itself apart. Sulla's civil war, proscription lists, thousands executed. At 18, the dictator Sulla ordered Caesar to divorce his wife Cornelia, whose father had been Sulla's enemy. Every other young Roman obeyed. Caesar refused. Sulla's men hunted him through the marshes outside Rome. He bribed his way out, fled to Asia, and served as a junior officer far from home. When Sulla finally died in 78 BC, Caesar returned to a Rome still bleeding. He was 22 years old. He had already learned the first rule of power: the men who compromise are the first to disappear. Caesar climbed the political ladder with borrowed money and blinding charisma. He spent fortunes he did not have, on games, on bribes, on public spectacles. He was elected Pontifex Maximus, Rome's chief priest, at 37, by outspending rivals twice his age. His debts were staggering. Creditors lined up outside his door. One morning, on his way to the election, he told his mother, "Today, I either come home as Pontifex Maximus, or I don't come home at all." He won. But debt alone does not build an empire. Caesar needed war. In 60 BC, he forged an alliance with Pompey, Rome's greatest general, and Crassus, Rome's richest man. They called it the First Triumvirate. Between them, they controlled armies, money, and popular support. Caesar took what he wanted most: command in Gaul, a province, an army, a war to make his name eternal. For 8 years, Caesar waged war across Gaul, modern France, Belgium, parts of Germany, and Britain. He fought 300 tribes. He crossed the Rhine on a bridge his engineers built in 10 days, just to prove Rome could reach anywhere. He invaded Britain twice. He besieged Alesia, where Vercingetorix and 80,000 Gauls were trapped behind walls that Caesar built around them, while 250,000 Gallic reinforcements attacked from outside. Caesar held both lines. He won. 1 million Gauls were killed, another 1,000,000 enslaved. Caesar wrote it all down himself in prose so clean that schoolchildren would read it 2,000 years later. He turned slaughter into literature, and every victory report he sent to Rome made him more popular with the people and more terrifying to the Senate. By 50 BC, he was the richest man in Rome and commanded the most loyal army in history. The Senate told him to disband his legions. He had a choice: obey and face trial and exile, or cross a river. On January 10th, 49 BC, Caesar stood on the banks of the Rubicon, a shallow stream marking the border between his province and Roman Italy. No general could legally cross it with an army. To cross was treason. He crossed. "The die is cast," he said, and Rome split in two. Pompey fled south with the Senate. Caesar pursued, not with anger, but with terrifying speed. City after city surrendered without a fight. Pompey evacuated to Greece. Caesar followed. At Pharsalus, in August 48 BC, Caesar's veterans shattered Pompey's larger army. Pompey ran to Egypt, and the boy King Ptolemy had him beheaded on the beach, hoping to please Caesar. Caesar wept when they brought him Pompey's severed head. He had wanted to forgive him. That was Caesar's weapon, not just the sword, but mercy. After Pharsalus, Caesar crushed every remaining enemy. In Egypt, Africa, Spain, he installed Cleopatra on the Egyptian throne. He celebrated 4 triumphs in a single month. Rome had never seen anything like it. He reformed the calendar. He settled veterans across the provinces. He granted citizenship to Gaul. He pardoned every enemy who surrendered, Brutus, Cassius, all of them. But the pardons were the problem. In Rome, to pardon an enemy was to assert superiority over them. Every act of mercy reminded the aristocracy that they existed at Caesar's pleasure. In February 44 BC, the Senate declared him dictator perpetuo, dictator for life. He wore purple. He put his face on coins. He sat while senators stood. He had become a king in everything but name. And in Rome, the word king was a death sentence. They called themselves the Liberatores, the Liberators. 60 senators, led by Brutus and Cassius. Men Caesar had forgiven. Men Caesar had promoted. On the morning of March the 15th, a soothsayer's warning. Beware the Ides of March. Caesar's wife Calpurnia begged him to stay home. She had dreamed of his murder. He almost listened. But Decimus Brutus, another conspirator, another friend, convinced him to come. They surrounded him in the Senate, near the theater of Pompey. Casca struck first, a clumsy blow to the neck. Caesar grabbed the blade and fought back. Then he saw Brutus, knife raised, and he stopped. He covered his face with his toga. He fell at the base of Pompey's statue, 23 stab wounds. He was 55 years old. He had ruled the world for 5. The assassins thought they were saving the Republic. They killed it instead. Within 2 years, civil war consumed Rome again. Brutus and Cassius died at Philippi. Cicero was executed, his hands nailed to the Senate doors. Caesar's adopted son Octavian became Augustus, the first emperor. The Republic never returned. Caesar's name became a title, Kaiser in Germany, Tsar in Russia. His calendar still measures our days. His month, July, still carries his name. He was a conqueror, a writer, a dictator, and a gambler who bet everything on himself every single time. History cannot decide if he was a tyrant or a visionary. Perhaps he was both. But one thing is certain. The men who murdered him in the name of freedom created a tyranny far worse than anything Caesar ever dreamed. Some men are too dangerous to live, and too dangerous to kill.